All right, we are recording. So I want to welcome everybody. This is the first learningtolight.com hot seat event. So we have Justin. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Justin. Justin is our co-host for today. So tell them where you are from and what you're doing here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Haugen. I'm from Tucson, Arizona. I'm a wedding photographer and creative portrait photographer here. I do it full time. I've been working for 3 years and been doing it ever since I lost my job at a big missile defense contractor here in Tucson. I guess I was lowest hanging fruit, but luckily I landed on some good wedding gigs and drank a lot of whiskey and put my efforts into my business. And here I am. It's still a viable thing. I'm still surprised people are willing to pay me money for photos. It feels like life's biggest con. But yeah, so feel free to post your questions to the chat and ask me anything that you want me to pass on to Kevin and Katie and that we can answer for you.
All right, awesome. Katie, tell us about you.
I am a part-time photographer and a full-time mom and wife. I have 5 kids that keep me pretty busy. And so that is kind of where my love of photography came from. Had 5 kids, picked up a camera, took a class 3 years ago, and learned how to use my camera in manual. So now I'm on the journey of continuing to grow as a photographer, and off-camera flash is kind of the next step for me.
Excellent. All right. And my name is Kevin Geary. I run learningtolight.com and the Learning to Light Facebook group. And my passion for a long time has been photography. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who want to get into learning lighting, off-camera flash specifically, because of the way that it can really take your images to the next level. So I just want to get out there and help as many people as I can. And we're putting on an event like this that I think is going to be very beneficial. This is the first one ever. So bear with us as we kind of just work our way through this. Nothing is scripted. Nothing is planned out. We're just doing this off the cuff and wanted to invite you guys to come in and watch. So what I'm going to do before as I start this screen share here, I want you guys to use the chat and let us know where you are watching from. Where in the world are you? We have a few people in here right now. And there's also a Q&A box. If you have a question, don't put it in the chat because it'll probably get lost. Put it in the Q&A box. And that will keep everything nice and organized for us. And we will check on that Q&A box after every picture or two, just to make sure everybody's questions are getting answered. That is the power of being in a class like this, that you get to ask questions. So it's not just about you watching and listening. Ask questions. We'll be able to respond to those, and you'll get a lot more out of this class. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and start a screen share here. We're going to start bringing up Katie's images. And like I said, we're going to talk about camera settings. We're going to talk about the thought process behind these images. We are going to talk about some editing, maybe tips and tricks, a whole bunch of stuff we're going to get out of this, okay? Awesome. So let me check, or I guess, Justin, why don't you check? Is anything going on in the chat? People telling us where they're from?
Yep, we've got Fernando from Dallas, Jackie Meredith from the UK, Arlene is in here from Ontario, Canada. We've got Lydia from Northern Virginia, Dana Ingram from Atlanta.
Excellent, excellent.
Dana is asking, what's the name of the Facebook group?
It is Learning to Light. And then there's a bunch of words after that, like off-camera flash stuff. That's just for Facebook search and stuff. But just search Learning to Light on Facebook, and you will be able to get it. Or go to learningtolight.com, and there's links there. You can get on the email list. It'll email you a link, all that good stuff. All right, so this is your first image, Katie, that we have selected. We've got about 15 images here, and we're going to try to get through all of them. And Justin, you can, I guess, help us stay on time here, right? So if you notice we're taking too long on an image, give us a cue to move on. All right, so kind of give us the thought process behind this image, what you were trying to accomplish, did you accomplish what you set out to accomplish, that kind of thing.
This is vacation in California, and so I like to document what happens with my family. And of course, as a photographer who's learning and growing, I had to take all my light gear with me. I, at this point, have 1 speed light, and I have some MagMod modifiers, and so I'm pretty sure I would have used this sphere on it. And so this is totally just experimentation using the wind, trying to freeze movement.
Gotcha. And where was the light positioned in this image?
If I remember correctly, I believe it was camera left, maybe about 10 feet from me. I'm still pretty close. I'm probably, what am I shooting on my 50?
You are on a 35 millimeter here.
So on my 35. Anyway, so not super far away.
Okay.
And I would have been doing ITTL on this one probably because it was my first.
Okay. And it says, so based on your settings here, we're at 1/200th of a second. We're at f2.2. So is that a 35 f2 or 35 1.4?
Probably 1.8.
1.8. Okay. And what let's do this as well. What camera system are you shooting on?
I now shoot on a D700, but that one is probably my D7100, so crop sensor.
Okay. And what trigger system and what flashes are you using here?
This one would have been, I didn't have my trigger system yet, so it would have just been the optical,
okay,
flash.
Cool. All right, Justin, you have any questions on this picture?
Okay, just to recap, you were using the built-in Nikon system to trigger this. Were you using the is it the CLS system to trigger the flash?
I would have just been using the pop-up, like the the pop-up flash, like the optical, when the top flashes at the top of the camera and tells the other flash to flash.
Gotcha. And so
does that make sense?
Sure. And what flash were you using?
The 910.
910. So it was TTL. You were telling the flash to exposure compensate. Like you can go +1, +2, +3. Okay, so you were working in TTL. Gotcha.
Since then, I've realized I don't have control over it when I do TTL, so now I don't shoot in TTL anymore.
And you're still using the SB10 910, and that's your main flash, or do you have another one, or what's your full setup now?
Now I have the 910, and then I have two Yongnuo whatever flashes that have the trigger built into them, and then I have a trigger system through them that I got off of Craigslist for $20.
Gotcha.
All right, so I'm going to jump in and just say that, so I'm looking at this image, and one thing that I like to, the thought process kind of going into making an image is how can we use the flash to make it either more dynamic, or are we using the flash to solve problems, right, that are presented by the environment? It looks to me like, and I don't know if you can remember back to this day, but this day kind of looks overcast, right? The sun wasn't like out and very bright.
It was dusk, so the sun was for sure not out, and it was very cloudy.
Okay. So I'm wondering, to me, because of where the flash is positioned, there's not much difference here between this shot and a natural light portrait, right? Because the flash itself, it's acting more as just fill. But there wasn't any issue with like the background exposure. I'm thinking that if you had just not used flash, that you could have the same image probably, that looks very, very similar.
Similar, yeah.
So the question is, we're not solving a problem with flash. Like if it was very bright out and that background was brightly lit, we would have to find a way to be able to bring that down while still keeping our subject in a great exposure. So we're not solving a problem. So we need to think about how can I use this light to add depth, add dimension, add drama to the picture. So automatically light placement, where is that going to be? If it's kind of close to you, and this is an environmental portrait, right?
Yeah.
So putting the flash anywhere near you is going to front light her, and it's going to end up very flat like it is here.
Yeah.
Putting the flash in front of her, way like where she's looking, way off to the left there, would create much more drama in the light, right? And then you would also have the ability to bring down the background even further, like a little bit darker. Like I'm thinking in that kind of range now. And you see where she is starting to get dark. This is where the flash really has the power to come in and add that drama that we're looking for. So you can take a shot that it looks, a shot that somebody would normally take and turn it into something completely different and artistic with that different light placement and a different thought about what we're doing with the background. I do love the scene in general. Like the background is very interesting. The only thing I would say, and I'm going to let Justin jump in here in a minute, and you can think back to this scene that we're at, was there a lot more on this side over here of this open area?
There was more over there, yes.
Because the only thing to me that I'm seeing here is this like
The tree.
the trees, the bush. It kind of kills the really awesome
Beautiful.
landscape feel that's back there, and she could have gotten if this was just gone, and you got way more in terms of mountains back there and stuff, that would have just been a lot more epic than I think it ended with this in the more toward the foreground.
There was a road there too that is right behind that little hill that I had to be.
Here.
Yeah. Okay. And so, but I absolutely see what you're saying.
Cool.
And I'll piggyback off of what Kevin's saying here. And this might be, we were talking about putting the light from a more frontward direction onto her, where it might add a little more drama to her. You might short light her a little bit and get some light fall off towards the backside of her, a little more added dimension using that light. If you had taken maybe 8 steps to your right and then turned to your left maybe like 25 degrees and just kept that light right out of frame, and now had your daughter turn a little bit towards that light, we could have cropped out those trees right behind her. You would have opened up the scene towards the expanse of that valley, and you would have gotten a more frontward light source direction towards her on her face. And that's all just by moving a few steps over to your right, not even having to reposition your light. So sometimes you can just you can get a completely different photo effect by moving over a little bit and working around your relative position to your light source, and you'd add a different dimension just by taking a few steps over.
Yeah.
What I do think you did really well with here is like what she's doing. Did you instruct her to do this? Was she just running and playing? What was going on?
No, I told her, stand here in the freezing cold and wave my scarf.
All right. Well, that's fine, because I think it, her hand, I think this can be improved, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of movement in the shot, and that's really great. Like, we're not just seeing someone standing here in a field. She's obviously, supposed to be here doing something, etc. So that's definitely, that element really, really works, and that can be accentuated by the light you're using on her. Cool. All right, you guys ready to move on?
I got one more thing to add, and in terms of posing, if her left hand on the right side of the frame was extended outward, and it was more of a there's more movement to it where she kind of had that hand out, I could see that being a little more dynamic in the posing. Maybe, hey, smile a little bit or tell her a silly joke. And then the other thing to be mindful of is our value for our tonality in the hair versus the back, those bushes. That's where we have to be careful that we could lose some the discernibility between her hair and where it meets the backdrop. But that's not a problem here. You got it pretty well done with the edit. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. Kay, do you have any questions about this image or the lighting in terms of how to do it differently?
No, I think that is where I am needing to grow the most at, instead of just taking a camera or making flat light, to how to make it more dynamic and more interesting. So.
Cool. All right, good stuff. So let's move on to this one. Go ahead and tell us the thought process here, who these people are, and what you were trying to accomplish.
So this is a family session in the mountains here in Tucson, and I had my flash with me but had lent out my stand, so I had to be creative in how I was using my flash. So a lot of times it's actually on the ground for this session, and they were backlit, and I wanted to have them be more exposed, so I had the flash and flashed them while I did this. I think I missed focus by just a bit on that maybe, but maybe not that one. But there were a couple of them from that session that I feel like my focus was not quite right. So
this is edited, already sharpened?
Probably.
Okay. All right. So I think this is one of your stronger images. And again, going back to the question of, are we solving problems with Flash? Or are we trying to create something very specific? This is an example of more of a solving a problem with flash, right? Like we have this backlit couple, and that's going to make them, without flash, it's going to make them darker. And if you push them to a proper exposure, you're going to start getting overexposed into the background, right? So by using the flash the way that you did, we're able to make sure that their exposure stays high while we have the background going on. I think the background is excellent. The trees are, you got a nice, we're shooting at f3.2 here. Again, this is on 35 millimeter, and you're at ISO 320. So it's, if these trees were more in focus, there could be problems with trees coming out of people's heads and this scene being too distracting. But I think that the depth of field you were shooting at worked really well here. I like the height of the light back there is very nice because it's kind of raking across the landscape as it comes through the trees. So that's all really well done. I'm going to let Justin in and just say, whatever he wants to say about this image.
And I've got some questions for you. Actually, Lydia wanted to know, did you use any type of CTO gel on your flash to warm the light source up a little bit?
No, I did not. And this one I struggled a lot with the white balance the whole session, just because of the quality of light, but and differing skin tones. But no, this was not gelled. If I used a modifier, it would have been the sphere, but I think it was just bare flash on this one.
Gotcha. And where is the light in relation to them? Is it up in your hand, like pointed towards them? I think I missed that.
No, I think I actually had it on the ground to my right, kind of, and just pointed up at them.
Gotcha. And so it's just really given a slight fill in there. And I'd say the light's very complementary to the scene. I think the tones of it's similar. Actually, I think I see a shadow line on the collar where it's leaving a shadow on his neck. So I can see how that the light is in fact coming into the scene that way. I think the light source is your off-camera flash is complementary to the scene, and it's very believable light. It doesn't look like it's a flashlit image. So this is where you didn't have to, you're not overpowering the ambient light, you're complementing the ambient light, and you're just filling in where there were shadows, and it's working very well in this image. Like aesthetically, the light looks pleasing, and it looks like a good part of the image. I'll get into some posing nuances where her body language is very strong, and I like to when it comes to a kiss like this where her left hand is wrapped around the back of his neck and coming down his shoulder, I may have pulled back on that a little bit and have her hand a little more delicately placed lower on the back of his neck. I like to tell girls use ballet hands, so that way it's not so, she's very strong here and she's pulling him against him. It's very I don't want to say it's emasculating, but maybe that's the dynamic in their relationship, but I like to have the hand placement a little more delicate.
Let's hope he's not tuning in live.
Sure. And one other thing I noticed, if we zoom in on their noses, I like to tell the ladies on the kiss to turn their nose just right of their man's nose. That way it's a little more feminine of a kiss. I sometimes find that the man's face, if it's too dominant, it looks like they're eating the face of their lover. And in this case, her nose is pushing his nose up just a little bit, so we're getting a lot of nostril on him. So if we could turn him just right of her nose, it'd be a little more of a delicate looking kiss.
Did you coach them a lot on this, Katie, or just tell them to kiss?
I did. I coached on their placement because I wanted the backlight of the where the ray of light was coming through.
Okay.
But I don't think I did a whole lot of posing for them. I'm still learning.
Yeah, that's fine. Like as Justin was saying, you'll see a picture of like from a wedding and it'll look candid, right? But there's something perfect about it.
Right.
That almost always happens through a lot of coaching. Like, so if you don't know that, you'll often go to an event like that or do a session like this, and you'll tell them to kiss, and then you'll take pictures and you'll go back home and wonder like why it didn't turn out as perfect as that you've seen it before, right? And it's because it's usually there's a lot of coercion going on in how that's actually being done. The only two other things that I wanted to comment on here, you said you had placed the light low. So it's like, whoops, that's a terrible arrow, isn't it? Yeah, I can't do it like that with my pen. But it's coming up, right?
Right.
Because this is just for the audience, really. Because this is just a little pop, like a little kiss of flash to kind of fill them in. There's not really any major problems being presented except this line on the neck. If you had needed to use more flash, you would have run into a lot of problems, right, with that light coming up. So casting shadows off these noses, the ears, even casting shadows going upwards would have been a huge issue. So I just, as a general rule of thumb, like never light from below. I always try to find a way to get my light up and over, because then if you need to make tweaks and stuff, you don't have any potential issues that are going to happen. The second thing is the one tree I think that is distracting is the one coming right through there, right? If their heads were, I always think head in a clean space. The cleaner the background is where their heads are, the better the image is going to be, the less distracting it's going to be. So you have, it's hard to see because their head is in the way, but there's some clean spot between the trees right there with the sun, and then over here as well where those trees are much further away, that I think would have been a little bit better. So if you had taken maybe a couple steps to your right and then taken the shot, that much bigger opening out there probably would have been better for their heads. All right, anything else on this image, guys, before we move on?
And I've got one more piece of feedback on posing when it comes to kissing. I like to tell the couples to give me the moment just before the kiss. So that I want them to hesitate on that moment before their lips meet. And if you think about romance novels, it's like tons of pictures of people not really kissing. So we want that moment just before the kiss. And then sometimes they're so anxious to get to the kiss. I always joke. I tell them, yeah, go ahead, mac a little now, and then they get their kiss in and they pull back. And that moment right when they pull back on the kiss, that's also a nice little bit of separation, and their faces are still in close proximity.
Excellent. All right, cool. Let's go on to this one. So again, this is more of a kind of a photojournalist type approach, right?
Yeah, so this is a wedding that I do, and the next picture, this room is horrifically red. Justin's shot there. And number one, I loathe the crooked mirror, so let me just put that out there.
Okay.
And then two, I had my flash on my camera, probably still shooting in TTL on this one, maybe, and then it was just had a mag sphere on it and was pointed to the ceiling just to get some bounce and to light some of the dark corners.
Cool. Justin, this is more, this is getting into kind of a lot of the style that you do, right? So I'll let you tackle this one first.
Sure, and I want to explain to our viewers what the mag sphere is. Some of them may not know what it is. And if you're not familiar, there is a line of small flash speedlight modifiers. They're called MagMod, and they are a magnet grip. They're a silicone grip system that goes over the head of your flash, and they have strong magnets inside of them, and the entire line of accessories all attach via magnets. So this one right here on screen is called the Mag Spear. It's also known as the Mag Boob, as it's been affectionately called in the MagMod community Facebook group. And they have a line of modifiers ranging from the spear to the bounce to the snoot, and they're all meant to shape and help you direct light to be very purposeful in how you'd like to use it, including a mag gel kit where you can insert your own corrective gels and creative gels. So in this photo, Katie had it on camera with the mag spear, which was that round modifier. And Katie, in what direction did you have that pointed on your camera? Was it pointed up towards the ceiling? Was it pointed at a wall? I'm guessing kind of up and to the left, a 45-degree angle, or?
My guess is that this one was, you know what? I think I was maybe a little more intentional about this one. Instead of just having it pointed up at the ceiling, I probably did turn it just a little bit to try to get that light on the side of his face.
And I see that a little bit in the image where the light looks directional. It looks like it's coming from the left, like it's bouncing off the wall, but it also looks like it's coming from some bounce off the ceiling because his eye sockets have some shadows in them. Yeah. So as he's pointed his chin upward, it looks deliberate. And I like this image. I think it's one of your stronger images. And I think it's deliberate in how you lit it and you captured a moment with it with good anticipation. So I don't have a whole lot to say other than you did a good job with this image.
Yeah, I like the storytelling definitely approach in this. For me, when I'm looking at this image, I'm distracted by this and the lightness of the wall here, because really this is where we need to be looking, right? And your eye is naturally drawn to the brighter part of the image.
Yeah.
And this is another issue with kind of you have a light on camera, so light's going to hit something very close to where you are, which was his back, versus trying to find maybe, and again, you said this room was very small, so we're dealing with a lot of challenges here, definitely. I'm wondering if like there's other ways to solve these issues. This being one of them. I don't know. I haven't really done anything with this yet, but there's a start, and then you don't want to kill vignette, but just getting this so it's not like so in your face, like bright, and then taking this. I would take this into Photoshop, and I would just be bringing his shirt right here, the back of his shirt, the exposure down on that really like selectively, so that we can get more focus on his reflection in the mirror going on, because that's really what we want to be looking at, right? But I think just a simple crop starts to help this out. When it's not cropped, it's very obvious that we're like he's here. That's very obvious, and a lot of times I don't like to make things so obvious for the viewer. Like if you brought that crop back in to where we were, somewhere in there in general, you do see him in his reflection first. And then later you see, oh, that's actually like that blurry kind of shape is his back. Like, and it gives the viewer more things to, see in the image, and the story like unfolds more rather than being like, boom, like right in your face, what's going on,
Yeah.
I've got an in-camera solution. I'm sure you're probably going to shoot this venue again. It's called Oasis at Wild Horse Ranch here in Tucson. Very popular venue. And every wedding photographer in town shot this venue probably at least 10 times. And Katie, do you happen to have a grid in your kit of Magmod equipment?
Yeah.
And this might be a situation where if you had assistance or if you had your light on a light stand, a little bit camera left pointed at his face into the mirror or at his face, if you could get somehow position that light where that coat hanger is, you might have to do some moving around. But if you could light just his face with that grid, you could point light only him, and you would not have all that light spill onto the wall. It might be a different dynamic to that image, and that's a situation where you could isolate his face and make it the focal point of the image, and we wouldn't have lit his back, we wouldn't have lit that wall. So be in that position again next time, it might be an opportunity to try out the grid.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm also going to say that I would have shot this the way you did it, but then I would have taken another image without that coat rack there, just to see if we can make an improvement there. Because I'm not sure that adds much. And it's kind of cutting off our view of him and some of the other stuff going on in the picture. But I know that it's also very, tensions are high, right? You're trying to move fast. And sometimes we don't always get to think about every part of this shot the way we would if it was like a staged portrait or something.
Sure, and we want to reconcile the photojournalistic approach versus the staged and everything is deliberate. I got to move this out of my way approach. And sometimes on wedding day, those two factors are at odds with each other.
Definitely, absolutely. And so yeah, if you were going to leave it, the only thing I would definitely remove is that in Photoshop, because again, going back to bright things being very distracting, or at least tone it down. If you're not going to remove it. But all right, cool. Let's move on to the same room, right?
Yeah.
Next image. Okay. So walk us through this one.
So this is one of the groomsmen, and they were having the worst time ever with his bow tie. And so this is his trying to remedy that situation. Obviously, it's backlit from the window behind, and the flash, again, is on camera with the sphere bounced at the ceiling. And this was just to capture that moment, and the flash was for Phil.
Cool. All right. So I love the moment here. Like I can see the tension and the frustration in this guy's face, trying to get this stuff sorted out. I find myself really wishing and hoping and praying that the main subject's face was in focus, so they were both there.
I did. So I was shooting obviously pretty shallow. And so I have another image that is the groom in focus and the other guy.
Cool. Yeah. This was again 35 millimeter at f2.8. So yeah, it's just for me personally, and I don't know if other people feel the same way, just for me personally, whenever I see somebody's face, especially if it's in the forefront of the image, like I want that to be, sharp, tack sharp.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Justin, what do you got?
And who's our groom? Is this our groom on the left-hand side?
Yeah.
Would you consider him? Would you rather him had been the focal point of the image, or in this case, the gentleman helping him out was the most important part of the image?
At this point, it was the gentleman behind him.
Gotcha. I find that this image is kind of a complimentary image to wedding coverage. I don't know if it's like a sincere or tender moment because he's looking a little scrunched up in the face. There might be another way to light or pose this or set up the scene. Maybe if there's a little bit of pullback on it, I'd feel a little more, have a sense of space, a place, and this activity. It just seems like in my coverage on a wedding day, it might be something I might skip over or not include, or I might try to get a different vantage point on. I don't have too much to say about it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think more room in this shot would have been great. And then having them both in focus. I mean, we see the tension here, but we don't have any context of where they are or, what else is going on here. So, that's where I think it's not as strong as it could be. If they were both in focus, if there was much more context and environment to the portrait, then I think it'd be far stronger, right? Okay, cool. Let's move on to, I'm going to jump ahead and then we'll come back. I want to get to, I know these are all kind of from events here. We'll try to get a mix of more like staged portraits and stuff. So let's jump to this one. Tell us a little bit about this.
So this is purely practice at home with my son. I had gotten my second set of speed lights, and so I was working on doing some backlighting with it. Obviously, the backlight either did not fire in this one, or actually it was coming across really strong, so I was trying to figure out how to deal with that. And there's a wall that's halfway behind him, and then you're seeing through into our kitchen, so that's the backgrounds to me doesn't work very well. But
yeah, so I mean, well, I love like light boxes of light in the background like that. The question is, was there enough of, does it end right there where the frame ends? Yeah. So that makes it tough. But anytime you can get, if there's like a panel of light, if you can get them symmetrical, so there's like two of them, right? Mm-hmm. That always looks really good. Or if there's just one, putting the subject's head in the center of it. So they're kind of framed almost, works really well. But yeah, having the split is problematic. So that starts to become more of a distraction than an added element to the photo. So if we kind of zoom in here, we can see did you say which modifier you were using?
That one would have had the sphere on it. And then when I was doing the backlighting, that one was bare. Okay.
Was there a window off to the left here too?
Yeah, there's a mirror kind of behind there. It's an open entryway.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm seeing it looks like there's two light sources. Yeah. Okay. And did you have anything in mind for the shot? Like, is this what you were trying to achieve, or is this just what happened?
He was mad about doing schoolwork, so I was documenting that.
I mean, in terms of like the lighting, were you trying to go for dark and split light and, this drama? What were you going for?
Yes, I was trying to, again, like I said, this one was practice. And so I was just experimenting with using two lights and trying to do something that wasn't that same flat front light. Okay,
cool. So I'll let Justin jump in here in just a second. The main thing I see is, and Justin will probably talk about grids and things like that in a second. But again, going to the brightest part of the image with our eye, the shirt really pops, and it's like it makes your eye like, what's that? And you keep going back there, and you don't get to just connect with the subject that we have in front of us. And even though he's not doing anything, and there's not any, it's just kind of expressionless, he has a very interesting face, right? So you can connect with that. and he's looking right at us, except for the fact that I have to keep looking at his shirt.
Sure. You know? Yeah.
But I'll let Justin jump in there.
This one's one of my favorite images from the intention of it. You're being very deliberate with the light, and you wanted to see like how the light would affect his face if you moved it, further to the left and change the degree of incidence on the angle of incidence of how the light's hitting his face, and you're getting this nice split light. I like that you're experimenting in this image and you're trying to see what happens with the light when you move it relative to your subject. And I know you're just practicing in this image, so you tend to look at things differently under the microscope of retrospect. So of course you would go back, I would change this differently, do this differently. And if you were to revisit this image, I actually like this split light image, light on him and its play on the background. If you moved over to the left a little bit and had him turn appropriately, you could have that background where the dark meets the window. It could be this neat, interesting, symmetrical play on the split of light where the dark side of his face occupies the lit side of the background, and then the lit side of his face occupies the dark side of the background. So there could be something very interesting you could play with there as a visual device. But I agree with Kevin on the shirt thing. If you wanted to control the spill of the light here, while you had the spear on it, you could also stack it on top of that grid, and then the light will only hit the front of the spear and not all sides of it, and you could actually narrow the beam of light and make it more emphasized on his face. Or you can remove the spear altogether, go with the grid and aim it right at his face, and you could probably eliminate all the light spill on his shirt and just emphasize his face. And it could be a really compelling portrait if you were to revisit this and try it under the same circumstances.
Yeah. I would definitely make that. Actually, I would take, so as a takeaway from this class, I would get him to go back to that exact same spot and shoot this over again, and see what you can do with it to improve it. The only other thing I would add probably is experimenting with a rim, coming from the back to help separate him again from the background. But again, I think you accomplished something. And for everybody watching, this is what's important. If you ask any random person to come into this room and take a picture of him standing exactly right there, they would create nothing like this. This is only created because of the way that you're using light and the way that light is interacting with the environment along with the camera settings and so on and so forth. So you're coming out with an image that is very interesting, far more interesting than just somebody taking a picture of this person in the room that they happen to be standing in, right? So that is the power of off-camera flash. This is not possible to do probably with the available light that was there.
No.
So you're able to make exactly the image you want to make. Let's do this one, because this one was one of my favorites. The light, again, it's not just, I want to light this person, so I'm going to plop my flash down right next to me and I'm going to blast them with light. There's a lot of direction to it. The reason this image works is because it has a very cinematic feel. And that's one of my favorite things to do with light, is it feels like you're looking at a movie scene, and the light is motivated by something. The light that is let me get my pen here. The light that is bouncing and kicking off all of this stuff could be, we don't know what that's coming from. That could be a giant window, right? And it's hitting him here. So this is a scene like that. Really, the light here makes sense. It's not contrived. And that's really what makes this image very powerful for me. I think out of the ones that I chose in the set that you sent me, like this was one of my favorites. There's something going on with him, like he's doing homework, he's frustrated with homework. Like that's something everybody can connect to. There's a lot of foreground elements that are very properly done, out of focus. I think this is really strong. And I'll let Justin jump in here too.
And this image, I agree with Kevin. This image really speaks to me. The light source is believable. I'm going to guess you had the MagMod spear camera left.
Yeah, it's the exact same as the one we just looked at.
Gotcha. And now so that means your background light that you had going on is at work here. So you actually lit the background up with that bare flash behind him?
Yes, and I don't know that you can tell, but kind of right in the middle of that chair, all of that light is ambient light from the window that you had seen that was kind of framing half of his head.
Gotcha. And could we go down and look at the timestamp on this image? Is this in the afternoon after school, probably like 4 or 5 o'clock?
I homeschool, so probably the middle of the day.
2:52.
3 o'clock. Okay. Gotcha. The light is very believable. I could almost believe that that's a window light coming in from the window. It's a very directional light source, and it's all relative to how light looks like in a home if we're looking at just ambient. But it's got a little punch to it. It's contrasty. I feel like the light's very believable in this, and you did a good job of selling the light in this image. You had an intention of lighting up the background and to put this light over to the side of him, and it conveys a great mood, and it's probably one of your strongest images in this set. And I really like this photo.
Awesome. All right, I think we can move on. Let's do. This is one Justin and I were talking about before we started here. Tell us a little bit about this.
So this is one of the first shoots I took. Off-camera flash, where I actually was using my trigger to trigger the flash. I gave the flash to the mom. I probably put it at 1/64. Wanted to capture the some of the color of the setting sun and still get, her properly exposed and not have to mess with it in post. So
cool. Justin?
So and I see in the next image after this, we'll get to that. And the two photos are very close in time, so I know they're only within a few minutes of each other. So you achieved two different looks. Maybe we could skip ahead to the image real quick to show our viewers. And that's only 4 minutes later, so you had a different intention with the light here, but we'll go back to the other image. And here, your off-camera light is believable. You've overexposed the sky, kept detail in the shadows here so we can actually see all the foreground elements, and then your light is complementary to the light available, so it looks like a believably lit image. It's not overwhelmingly strong off-camera flash lit image, but I can give you some suggestions on how to pose our model, our subject, so it's a little more flattering for her figure type, and positioning of the light to work into that element of the posing that helps makes the body look a little more slender. And you can actually push. I'm going to imagine your camera is this a 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter? And you're pretty far back because that's like an 80 on your. Is this a D700?
No, yeah. So this one is our the full frame. The problem here is the cacti.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to work around. A lot of our viewers not from Arizona don't know what it's like to back up into a cactus. So if you grab that light stand from where it's at, I'm going to guess it's to your right, maybe about 8 feet, 5 feet out. Just how far out of frame is that light stand?
Mom was holding it for me, and so she was probably behind me by 4 or 5 feet.
Gotcha. And I would have pushed Mom further forward from you. Like if you're from your plane of axis, if Mom was to your right, I'd move her forward like 5 feet and have her aim the light towards the daughter. And then I would turn her body towards the light source. And now you'd have short lighting where the light would fall off on the wide side of her face that's most prominent towards the camera, and the light would fall off on her body line, and and if you added a little more, if you dropped the ambient down a little bit, turned the power up on the flash a little bit, and worked for more of a shadow, contrasty look, you could really make her look more flattering just by posing her towards that light source. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you watch the foliage here, as I drop the exposure down, I think somewhere in there is much more probably real to what you were actually experiencing at that time, like with the sunset. I feel like here, we're a bit like too bright. Yeah, like the foliage is brighter than it seems like it should be. Like with the sun that low and raking across, we don't want a lot of detail in the front. We just want that nice orange rim to come in. So we don't need a lot of we know the foliage is there. You know, we just want to see the rim kind of raking across it. And then this is where the flash really shines of bringing her back into the scene and not being too dark. And again, with probably using a grid here. So she's not completely lit, but we still get like what we're after here. I love the foliage in the front here being out of focus. This is a really great like framing element. So that's really well done. I love the depth of field you just chose in general. Like the background's not going to like butter. You know, we still see a bunch of interesting things. I'm not too sure, you know, this one is kind of distracting for me just because it's as like a plant. It's not like a beautiful plant or anything, you know? So I don't know if there were, I haven't been out there in a long time to Arizona. Are these things everywhere or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Hard to avoid, right? Okay.
I think it's called Ocotillo. It's pretty common.
All right. And then just looking at, again, with changing her body position like Justin was talking about, but, you know, when anybody is looking at photos, clients aren't going to see this kind of stuff. But as photographers, like we need to, but just this like hard shadow here coming in, the ones on her face, because she's looking toward the direction of the light is really fine. But if somebody else is trying to recreate something like this and they may ask their client to look towards the camera, it's going to result in very unflattering shadows on the face. And they're going to try to figure out, oh, why is this happening? So if you have a hard light source, to me, because I don't like hard shadows really, it limits what I can do with the subject, you know, like where they can be looking and facing. It's very limiting in terms of that. Because if she looked right at us, there'd be a really long, hard nose shadow coming off of that. So just something for other people to think about when they're making these images.
Could we bring my video camera, the webcam of me to the main screen? I want to show a quick little demo on short and broad lighting.
Yeah, let's see. There you go.
All right. Let's see. Let me turn my light off here. Okay, to our viewers here, just a demonstration of short and broad lighting, and these are two common light patterns in our portrait lighting. Short lighting is where you turn the subject's face and body or body towards the light source, and so right now to my right is a big window, and when I turn my face towards that light source, this side of my face, the side of the face that's most prominent towards the camera, now falls off in the darkness, and you get a more sculpted look of light on my face. Very flattering for your larger body type clients. It's the kind of light that you want to put all your larger body type clients in, because I do a lot of weddings. I don't get to pick the brides that I work with. I don't work with models. I work with people. And so I want people to feel comfortable in their own skin and to have a nice memory about how they look in their images. So I think it's the best light you can put your subject in. So try to turn towards the light. It really can slender the body too, because now you'll have the parts that they're a little more insecure about falling off in the darkness. Conversely, we have broad lighting. If you turn your subject's face away from the light source, we now light the larger part of the face that's more prominent towards the camera. It can be a compelling way to light an image. Usually people with very strong jaw lines can pull this off. If you do it on me, you see the wide side of my face is now lit, and you might not want to light your larger subjects with that type of lighting.
Yeah. I stick with short lighting almost all. If you go back to do your short lighting, look back at your window there, Justin. That's kind of like what you'll see mostly in like movies and like cinematic lighting. They do a lot of that, right? And there's usually a lot more interest in looking at the shadow side of the face more often and creating that depth and drama that kind of lighting creates. So that's definitely a very popular type of lighting. All right, let me put this screen.
Probably use it like.
What were you going to say?
I probably use it like 90% of the time in my lighting patterns. I probably overuse it. I should work on some other lighting patterns.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty sexy lighting though.
Good light.
All right, let's move to this one.
One more thing I want to
yeah.
That last light and this one are both with the CTO gel on the flash.
And was that a full CTO or was that a quarter, half?
My Magmod CTO gels are not labeled, so I don't know. I threw one on there.
All right. So just orange. We're going.
I'm gonna guess it was a quarter or a half.
Me too.
It's not pushing the shadows super blue, so I would say even maybe a quarter. It's a kind of a hint of warmth. It's helping match the tones of golden hour from the sunset. So
I think she could have gone to half, probably, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I probably would have gone a little bit more on the CTO there. Okay, so let's talk about this one. 4 minutes later, and we have a totally different look. Let's see what's going on with our camera settings. So we're at ISO 100, f2.8 and 1/200th of a second. And now we're at f5.0 and 1/250th of a second. Was there any reason why there was a shutter speed change here?
No, I was just trying to get the sunset colors to come out more, and because I'm totally just shooting in the dark with my camera settings, that's what it ended up at.
Okay, cool. All right, so Justin, I'll let you tackle this one first.
Okay, so there's a few things going on here that are easy to correct in camera. So we have her standing in front of this pretty much dark expanse because the sun is no longer reaching that area of the background between the horizon and her. And there's a couple ways to correct this. And the easiest one right now would be to crouch down and put her waist above the horizon line. And now you'll have her backlit by what's left of the sky.
Gotcha.
And that's the easiest way. The other way to do it is, if you have your second flash handy, is you could go off into those cactus behind her, point it at the back of her head, and have it just out of frame, and you could rim light her and give her an accent of light where the dark part of her hair meets the backdrop, and that can give some little bit of separation here. And then and the third way, I'll let Kevin talk to it. We were messing around with this image in post, and he had a solution for it too.
Yeah, so we were talking about the shadow detail not being, so there's basically, and let me bring up the grid here. So you have your foreground elements down here, which I think are too bright because they kind of distract from her. Then you have your middle elements here, and then you have up top. This is nice, and so this would completely change doing what Justin said of getting it to a lower shooting point. But I still think you could have made this angle could have worked, right? And could have worked better. If this was darker down here, and then we had this element here, and then to solve the trouble with the middle element, just bringing like that shadow detail in. And then of course we have to work on her, and there's some saturation issues now and things like that. But if we can see the detail still there, and it's not just a big black bar shooting through behind her, that solves a lot. Like, we don't need a rim necessarily now, like Justin was talking about. If you just and this is caused by being at f5.0. So allowing a little bit more of that ambient to bleed into our scene. And then I would really like to see, excuse me for a second, because I don't use Lightroom much. I use almost all Photoshop, but I think that's how it goes. But yeah, see, clicking on wrong stuff here. But if we're darker there, and this again could be done with grids and things like that, we're now like, boom, she's right there. Like, that's who we're drawn to, right? And it's not just all of this ground lit for pretty much no reason.
Right.
The other thing is, like, I don't know if she had a choice of what she was wearing, but like shiny stuff, is really tough to deal with, just because, again, it makes you look places that we want to be looking at our eyes. Like, we want to connect with the subject, and all of these elements that are too lit start to really distract us from what we should be looking at. Anything else on that, Justin?
Yeah, and I know our subjects who are a little bigger in body type usually want us. I always get this request: can you shoot me from up high? Because they always want to negate the double chin action, which that double chin action happens on everyone. It doesn't matter how skinny you are or how big you are. And so this might be one of those cases where she said, could you shoot me a little higher? And you obliged. And that's why we have some of the issues we do with the horizon line. But should you drop down lower and took a knee and shot, you shot her with her body above the horizon line, and now we've got the issue of the chin where people don't like to be photographed from below. I do like to angle my subject's face down towards the camera a little bit more, and I like to tell them to do, I call it the Gomer Pyle, where if you remember Gomer Pyle from the Andy Griffith Show, where he used to stick his jaw out real far and he kind of had this goofy looking going on. I like to tell people to do that Gomer Pyle, push your chin forward without straining their neck, and it's a good way to negate the double chin action that we get if we're underneath our subjects. So it just came to mind looking at the lighting situation, knowing that people like to be photographed from above because they don't want that double chin. So.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right. The other thing I was going to ask you, do you have other modifiers besides MagMod stuff?
Nope.
Okay. Because this is where, an image like this, and going back to what I said on the last image, where once you put your light over here, if you have them turn their head, you start to create issues.
Yeah.
So like this big shadow, very, very hard. This is where people can switch to another modifier and solve these problems. And the other thing with hard light is you can see what it's doing to her skin, right? It's really accentuating all of the imperfections in the skin. And of course, if you want to go in as a photographer and fix that in post, it's going to be a way more work than if you had let the light fix it ahead of time by using a larger source, a softer source, bringing that in a lot closer to her. So I would say that if you wanted to get like a collapsible beauty dish, like a 33-inch collapsible beauty dish that has a little scrim on the front of it, that's so easy for even the mom to hold, just as the bare flash. It's very, very lightweight. But again, you go from a small source to a much larger source.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't grid that modifier usually. I don't know of one anyway, that a brand that allows a grid. But again, it solves a lot of these issues.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we have time for one more image, so we'll go ahead and move on to that. But I wanted to say to everybody, throw in questions. If you have any questions, throw in the chat. What do you guys think about the event so far? And let us know, just any comments that you want to give us before we wrap up here. We're going to do one more image. Let's do two quickly. I'll do this one and then the last one. I just wanted to point out in this group shot, we talked about this beforehand, how you had one light on the right, one light on the left. So we're effectively cross-lighting this group. And I think, one thing people can think about, because there's a lot of photographers here who have to do groups, who are wanting to solve this problem. I think when we are in Facebook groups, this is one of the most requested, challenges to solve. Oh my gosh, I have a big group I have to photograph. Where do I put the light? So when you cross-light, it creates tons of problems, right? So we're going in and we're seeing massive shadows on people's heads because that light's coming in and hitting this person and shadowing this person, right? And then it's going to happen the same thing coming from the other lights. We have this guy's head creating the shadow on this gentleman in the back. So almost always we want to avoid the cross-lighting pattern. So what can we do instead? If we're going to put one light off to the side, which in a big group like this, again, it's always probably going to cause problems. You at least want the fill to be on axis, so above you somewhere. But I would almost always go to a main light on axis above me, like as high as I can get it, coming down on that group. And then that's going to throw these shadows downwards. If anybody's standing behind somebody, that shadow is going to be down, not on their face, out of the kind of the view of the camera, because where their body is being blocked anyway. So one light way above coming down, I think, solves that problem. Anything on that, Justin?
Can I see our metadata over here? Can I see our settings?
We're at 640 and f5.6 and 1/200th.
Great. And I think in this situation, you could bring in some more ambient. Well, actually, you did a good job of keeping the stained glass in the image, so maybe we wouldn't want to do that. But I do agree with Kevin where you'd want to stick the light up on maybe on the on axis on the light stand. I would even go with some bounce. I would point it at the ceiling at maybe a 45-degree angle and really shoot it as much power as you need, half power, quarter power, maybe even full power, depending on. You seem pretty far from this entire group, but you could definitely hit everybody in that group from end to end with a nice big ceiling bounce if you gave that a try. well.
Not in this church because of that archway and stuff. The ceiling, I don't think I could have bounced it from the ceiling, but I agree, bringing it in closer. But yes.
Well, you'd be surprised. You could actually bump up your ISO to 1600, but we might start to lose your awesome stained glass window, which you did a great job of bringing the detail in that. So it might be a situation where you could raise the ISO to make the sensor more sensitive to the light power, and then actually get that fill on everybody. And you could incorporate some of the ambient light. It might be where you could blend the light a little bit too. So you kind of play a tightrope game where you're trying to figure out what you're willing to accept in terms of the quality of the light versus what you're willing to lose. So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go to, there's one more that I definitely wanted to hit because it was interesting to me. And it is this one. So give us the kind of the why, the how behind this one.
So I was shooting a backyard wedding and I had one speed light to work with. This is their first dance. Families in the background watching, and the guy in the foreground left is playing the guitar for their first dance.
Okay. So for me, looking at this image, the first thing is I like the light placement, again, because we're creating a lot of depth and dimension in the shot. I think it's a little hot. So like if I hit J here, you can see the red in here. So we are overexposed a bit, and it just feels like there's too much punch. So, and I mean, this kind of stuff can start to be fixed in post, but I think bringing it down to like, that is starting to help our scene right away. Is this putting people in the foreground element kind of out of focus? Is this one of your things, your looks?
I don't know that it's a look, but in trying to be more documentary, I want to capture as much of the feeling and the moment as possible. And so for this one, it was intentional to have them in the shot and to have them out of focus.
Okay. I can see where this would be interesting. I don't know. I assume you get other shots where there aren't people in the foreground element. Yeah. Okay. For me, it's not something I particularly care for, but I can see where it does add a lot of interest for some viewers. So as long as you're kind of shooting both ways, I think that's good. Because I also know a lot of clients are going to be like, "Whoa, what happened there?" So as long as you have other images without people in the foreground to cover that, that's fine. I like the people in the background. Them watching this happen. Was this a very small event though, or because it's giving the feel that it's a very small event?
Yes, it was a very small event, and it was the woman in the wheelchair was the officiant of the wedding and is the aunt of the bride. So the family in it was a big deal to them. Okay,
cool. The only thing, and Justin and I talked about this beforehand, giving a little bit more, were they actually dancing or were they just embracing?
They were dancing.
Okay. Giving a little bit more time where he starts to come around and turn, where we then get his face. So right now, as the viewer, I am saying, gosh, I really want to know what these people look like, or at least one of them, So I'm seeing the back of her head and I'm barely seeing his eye, and that's all I've got. So it's, as a viewer, it's kind of a letdown when that happens. So just waiting just a little bit more for them to start to turn around and see. And I don't know, maybe you did, maybe you got more images where that happened. But I'll turn it over to Justin.
And regarding, now that I have some insight into the guitarist portion of this, I think maybe this might be an instance where you could tap the guy in the shoulder and have him turn toward camera a little bit more, and then we can see that guitar. And then I would totally have the story here, like, oh, he was playing guitar. They were dancing to him playing. As it stands, it's kind of a bearded uncle who's just crossing his arms and and moving his way into the shot. But I like doing these types of environmental images where we're getting a sense of place and a sense of perspective and scale and distance, where we have people in the foreground, people in the background. But the anticipation of them turning around is a key element here. If you wait even longer, what I like is to get I would love to see the bride getting the best light. So I'm kind of okay with the guy. If the guy was to the left and the back of his head was getting the light and his face was a little darker, and we saw a kiss of light just on the front of her face, that's the kind of lighting situation I like to see. I tend to favor the bride's faces more than the groom's faces in these lighting situations. Maybe I'm just biased. The other thing I'd like to see is maybe from a stylistic approach, Kevin, if we drop down the exposure like half a stop or maybe a stop, and then bumped up the highlights past the 0 mark, bring it up a little bit more. This might be something where you could achieve this kind of look in camera, where we went for a higher aperture and bumped the power of the flash up a little bit and killed some of the ambient. I think it gives a different kind of mood and drama to the image too. So sometimes when I'm in these lighting situations, I'm considering how much ambient am I willing to let affect the image, and how much I want to main light the image and make the point light, the light source, be the main point of light, and having its effect on the image and the drama of it. So just something to think of.
Yeah, definitely. And also, yeah, I don't shoot weddings, so I don't know how much leeway you have in terms of making sure people are positioned in certain places. But I'm imagining if they were dancing here somewhere, and then our guitarist guy is over here. So then we get a family watching, we get the guitarist playing, and then we get them dancing, and they're all kind of in the same shot. If he can't be moved, then as Justin said, just having him turn a little bit so we can see a guitar. Because yeah, I had no idea that that's what was going on there. But yeah, tell me, does that happen at events? Can you get him over there? Can you get them to come over this way more? Is that kind of thing possible, or are you just shooting what happened?
For me, because I am still trying to figure out the wedding world, I for sure think that there is room to tell people what to do. But at the same time, this wedding in particular, like if we were moved, there's this horrible wall here where everybody else is sitting and watching. So this was actually one of the cleanest shots to get.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think part of it is being able to see what I want ahead of time and tell people where to stand instead of just reacting to the situation. Excellent.
Do we have anything going on in the chat, Justin?
Yep, we've got a few questions that came up. Jackie wants to know if any of us use a light meter.
That would be a negative for me.
And I don't use one either, especially on a wedding day or impromptu shoot situation. I don't have the time to get metered, to meter the light and work in that way. So it tends to be a lot of trial and error for me. I hunt and I shoot, and then I chimp and look at the back of my camera and see how close I am, which isn't always a great way to do it either, because your exposure could look off on your LCD. So you really got to check into your histograms and see how the values look on your histogram too. But that's a whole other topic. And Katie, what do you do?
I would love one because I love the numbers behind it all, but I don't have one, so I don't use one. What I actually do is on my 910, you can, when the flash head is at like 90 degrees, it'll tell you when you put in all of your ISO, your shutter speed and all of that, or your aperture, it'll tell you kind of the distance. And so I actually look at the back of the flash sometimes to give me an idea of what it thinks is the best for just the flash power.
Great.
Awesome.
And we had one more question. What modifiers do we prefer to use? Dana asked. She heard Katie say that she uses MagMod, and I use MagMod products as well, but there are also other products that we use. Some people use umbrellas, some people use rapid boxes from Westcott. Most of my off-camera flash work is using MagMods. I do a lot of environmental portraiture. I'm not doing a lot of up-close beauty work, and I tend not to use MagMod for that up-close beauty work. The light quality is a little harsher. It's not like, some of you may have heard of the MagSphere. It's not a super light, soft quality light. For that kind of light quality, you need a large softbox. And the other light modifier that I like to use is I have a Photodiox 28-inch beauty dish and a grid for it. And that's a pretty large light source that I use in my up-close beauty and portrait work. But Kevin's got some great recommendations for light modifiers that he's using with his speed lights.
Yeah, if you guys go to learningtolight.com, there's a gear page, and I have basically all of my gear listed and the modifiers and links to a lot of them as well. I typically like big and soft, but again, I'm not photographing events, right? So if I was photographing events, I'm probably not going to be walking around with a 47-inch Octa like on a stick, you know? So if you're shooting weddings and events like this, you're kind of limited unless you have a big crew to come along with you as to what you can be using. But when I'm shooting stuff, you know, like these portraits, for example, I want to be really soft. I want to be very bright. You know, that's kind of my style, right? But at the same time, I want to be able to make much more interesting type portraits. So this was using MagMod stuff, right? So just putting a grid on a light and booming it overhead, and the ability to just get exactly the look that I'm going for, you know, that's really what determines it. When you have an idea for a picture in your head, that's going to determine the modifiers that you use. And you have to know, you know, what are my go-to modifiers in order to make that thought or that idea I have really come to life. So yeah, that's it. Are we done here, Justin? Katie said her battery died. We lost her. She just messaged me and she was like, her battery died on her laptop. So
I'm glad you made it to the end. I'll make one more comment to the types of light modifiers we use. Definitely, when you go get your first modifiers, remember that the larger the relative source of light and how big your modifier is has an impact on the quality of the softness of your images. So if you want a very soft and beauty quality light source, you're going to want to look at something that's like 43 inches, or I see a 60-inch Photox Para shoot through umbrella. That's probably a good one, a more accessible modifier to play with. The larger your light source is, the softer the quality of light. Think a large window in a room with a piece of fabric in front of it, like a translucent white fabric. That quality of light is soft. You can't get softer light than that. And if you want to achieve that kind of light in quality with your modifiers, you've got to get a large, big, soft box type of modifier. And that's how we achieve that light. The smaller our light sources, the harsher the light quality, and we can get away with that kind of light quality with environmental portraits, because perceptively, when you see a subject smaller in an image and there's more environment going on, we kind of allow ourselves to believe that the light quality is softer because of the relative distance that we're viewing the image from. It's okay to see harsher light in that situation. And I also don't mind smaller, harder light sources for shooting men, photographing like athletic portraits. You want to sculpt and show body form and muscles. Like shooting men, I'll shoot small modifiers all the time. The MagMod stuff is great for like sports portraits. I'll shoot that stuff anytime. Dana wants to know, will there be more of these seminars where we show our work and would like to see our work and pick our brains?
Yes. So what I do, this is an open invitation to anybody. If you want to be in the hot seat, that is the goal here, is to bring on as many people as possible to come into the hot seat and bring your images with you. And we will do exactly what we did today for you and give you a chance to ask a bunch of questions. And again, I think the more that we do this, we're going to grow the audience who's watching live as well, which means we're going to get more questions from the audience. And these are just going to get bigger and better. So the answer is yes. If you want to participate, if you want to be in the hot seat, just go to learningtolight.com and you can click on this little critiques tab up here, and that is going to give you the instructions, or you can just hit the contact button and send me an email and say, hey, I want to be in the hot seat, and we will get it set up for you. So yes, the answer is yes. Come and participate. All right, Justin, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on facebook.com/Justin Photos with an S at the end, Justin Photos. And you can also find me on my website. It's www.justinhaugen.com. My last name is spelled Haugen.
Awesome. And you guys can find me at learningtolight.com. We will be back very soon with another class. Cheers.